Hey, what's up, Demon Dogs? The trailer for the Ghostbusters, I want to say remake, came out yesterday, and I want to talk about it. Matter of fact, I want to talk about a few things. Specifically, we're going to break this up into two parts. First off, I'm going to actually talk about the film itself and the trailer that I watched a lot. And I'm also going to talk about the reaction to this film, which has been somewhat controversial since literally the first second. But first off, I'm going to talk about the trailer that I watched. And it starts out with a text talking about how 30 years ago, three scientists in Winston, saved the world, and now it's up to a new team or something like that. That kind of muddles the film for me because I thought this was a clean break continuity-wise, which is why I'm thinking it's remakes. The way I look at these things is a reboot generally is when you have a current series going on, whether it be film or TV or comics, and you stop it cold and start over with a new continuity. Since Ghostbusters 2 came out in 1989, that's not really that much of a current series, at least that's not what I think is a current series. So I've just been thinking about this as a remake. But let's see, that kind of like text at the beginning it's a little bit confusing, so I'm beginning to think like, oh, maybe this is kind of a loose continuity. I'm not too sure. We'll see. That might be just for the audience. And holy shit, I'm talking way too much about the first part. The film introduces the four main characters, the Ghostbusters, and one of the things I like right off the bat, and I've kind of been getting a feeling for this, but now that I've actually seen the characters somewhat in action, I like the fact that they kind of fulfill those roles, but aren't carbon copies. They're not like female versions of Venkman and Winston. It's not like the Adventure Time gender bent stuff, where they're the exact same character, just female versus male. And also, like, Chris Hemsworth, doesn't seem like, like an Annie Potts type, just done as a male. So that's kind of cool. I'm really happy they're going that way. They're not even named that way. So if this is kind of a remake, that's probably a good way to do it. Keep the premise, keep the story generally, adapted for the new generation. But, I prefer remakes to go this way. Not like the Psycho way, where you basically make the same film in color or something like that. It's kind of... Those kind of remakes are basically pointless. You should have something to say when you make a film. Or you remake a film, I should say. Some of the jokes that I think really work for me is like Kristen Wiig getting sprayed in the beginning by that beautiful and awesome library ghost. I get the feeling in that scene she's the only one who gets sprayed with slime, which that kind of joke always makes me laugh when somebody is picked out of the group to like either spray or shock or hurt or something like that. The possession joke at the end is very funny, where she's cool, the ghost jumped out of her and she's still hitting her. I've seen that joke before, but that's also one of those jokes that I always think is funny. Let's see, I guess the wig joke that Kate McKinnon does in the middle of it is not really kind of, it's just there. I gotta say the shots of Times Square look fantastic. All those ghosts, and we do see Slimer. It's actually the first time I think I ever recall being excited to see Slimer. And he looks great. The ghosts really look cool. I love that whole setup. I get the feeling, I could be wrong, that this might be the climax actually taking place in Times Square rather than a specific locale, like a building or something like that, in the first film, or even in the second film, really. I like the fact that they went with comedians this time, because I remember people talking about how they should get like actors who can do comedy. It's like no, you have to play by the rules. And in the original, they were comedians who all kind of knew each other, with maybe the exception of Ernie Hudson. I'm sure he was just brought in and hired. But they all kind of were familiar with each other and had a good repertoire. Same thing with these actresses. They've been working together. They're kind of out of Saturday Night Live. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of where you go about it. You just don't go, well, who's hot this week? Let's go with Emma Stone and this chick. And no, that's a recipe for disaster. So I like the fact that I think the character's name is Penny. I may be wrong, but she knows New York. She's worked with the subway system. I like the fact that she brings that to the team, and it looks like she kind of invites herself into the group. She brings in the new Ecto 1, which looks pretty cool, all dressed up, and is kind of appropriate. It should be from the 80s, the hearse or the ambulance. It's actually, this time it's a hearse. Because when Ghostbusters was made, it was 1984, and a 50s ambulance wasn't that old. It was like about around the same age, actually. Isn't that weird? Now, I gotta say, I like Kristen Wiig. Actually, Kristen Wiig's character doesn't look, like I said earlier, none of the characters really seem like they fit into these molds exactly like the original characters do. And I like the fact that she seems like a timid person who's going to be going through this character arc, where Melissa McCarthy's character does seem to have some kind of similarity to like Ray, where she's all into it and we're gonna do this. I've been told that she's supposed to have something in common with Venkman as far as being kind of a smart ass or something like that. That's kind of cool. Also, Kate McKinnon's character seems probably the most different out of the archetypes. She seems a little kind of like punky, a little more rebellious, which is kind of a good idea, because I'd have to go to the Extreme Ghostbusters to find something like that. Not the original films. And I'm curious to see, they have mentioned that it seems like somebody has a device that's been activating ghosts, which possibly means that the villain for the film might be a human, with intentions kind of, I don't know, I'm not sure what somebody's plot would be. But, actually, the Ghostbusters cartoon dealt with that kind of thing from time to time, where a human villain was manipulating ghosts for their own uses. And I wonder if that's where they're going, which would actually be kind of interesting, instead of a demon beast from beyond, like the previous two films. At least we can break it up. I am excited to see the film come together more, and I like Paul Feig's work in The Heat and Bridesmaids. And actually, when I watched Bridesmaids and thought about it with this film, everybody tends to think that Bridesmaids is a film about 4 women who puke and shit in bridesmaids' dresses. Kind of more than that. There's a little bit more to that movie than that. And one of the things that connected with me with the film was about Kristen Wiig, and how she had kind of went into her dreams and try and build a business, and it all failed, and she felt like a failure. She was financially just at the end of her rope. And it was a comedy featuring people who shit in dresses, but it was also mostly a film that dealt with kind of feeling like a failure. And I remember watching that film and I have been in those positions before. I don't need to be a woman to relate to this character. And that's something that I've heard people over the years talk about. Oh, that's what kind of Ghostbusters is about. It's about characters who are at their wits' end. Nobody accepts them. Nobody believes in them. And nobody gives them a chance. They're thrown out of the university, the establishment in the local chapters of different science institutes don't believe them. The government doesn't give them a chance. People don't take them seriously. And these guys who build their business and triumph, and prove everybody what they can do. Well, from Bridesmaids, I feel like that's something that Paul Feig and this group can actually accomplish, especially when you consider the choice of making the characters women. Now, I know people have talked about it being gimmicky. By the way, nobody seems to talk about that when it's male characters. Like, oh, this seems gimmicky to have all male characters. No, never, that's not something people discuss. I think an idea... Now, here's the thing. I don't know if they're going to be doing this, but I get the sense that I've seen women in the fields of science, and actually all sorts of fields, but let's specifically talk about science, be kind of ignored and not given the praise that they deserve, or not given the promotions they deserve. There were a lot of women who were involved in the space race, by the way, and the moon landing. Have you heard about them? Do you know what they were involved with? No, neither do I. Wonder why. And you can't even say, oh, that's just the past. You know, even in recent history, the last couple of years, I remember this controversy about a scientist talking about, a well-known, well-placed scientist talking about how women really shouldn't be in the same laboratory because they're too distracting. And that launched a whole bunch of anger over the internets, by the way. And this was somebody who was, like, you know, in serious, you know, fields talking about this. And, you know, I can go on and on and on. Hey, did you know Hedy Lamarr actually invented Wi-Fi? Yeah, I didn't know that either. She wasn't taken seriously when she brought this to the government. Maybe because she was a big film star, but, you know, being a woman actually probably hurt her chances as well. And also it was the 40s. So, this is something that could be exploited and used to very, very efficient degrees in the film if they choose to do it. Not too sure if they will or not. I'm sure during the filming of this, when they'd hear anger over the internet, I'm sure that wouldn't have motivated them to do that or anything like that. Who knows? And now while I'm talking about it, maybe I should get into the second part of this video, is the reaction to this film. And I guess I start first with me. One of the first things I was thinking of, and I'll build off there. I have made no apologies for the fact that Ghostbusters 2 is not one of my favorite films. It's not my favorite film that came out that summer of '89, or that week. It's not a very good film. Ghostbusters, the original film, is incredibly important to me. It's one of my favorite films of all time. I had so many memories of seeing that film. I had watched the real Ghostbusters cartoon ad nauseum. I taped every episode. I watched them over and over again. My name, the real Manos, is a half reference to the real Ghostbusters. So, I was a pretty big fan. For years, though, when I hear Sony and Columbia and Ivan Reitman and Dan Aykroyd talk about doing a sequel to Ghostbusters after, you know, a third film, I become really nervous because Ghostbusters 2 wasn't very good. And it was very obvious from watching that film, nobody wanted to be there. Especially Peter Venkman, Bill Murray. Bill Murray has to be taught to be anywhere involved in Ghostbusters. It's just not his thing. And it's one of those things where it's like, okay, I'm glad you guys like it. So doing a third one was just very problematic, and the time that grew just made it more troublesome. Like Blues Brothers 2000, by the way, is an example of what I'm afraid Ghostbusters 3 could have been. So time and time grew, and also we lost, in the last couple of years, Harold Ramis, who I thought brought a lot to the original film and kind of kept Dan Aykroyd closer to earth as far as what the script should be like. So without him, I really didn't have any faith. So Columbia and Sony, they were going to do Ghostbusters whatever. Ghostbusters 3, Ghostbusters remake, whatever. I think doing a reboot or a remake, frankly, was probably the best choice. And if it fails, then fine. It'll be forgotten. It'll be like the Footloose remake or the Fog remake. Hey, remember those films? No, no one else does. Then fine, okay. But if it succeeds, well then great. we have a whole new generation of fans we can build off of. And I'm sure Sony and Columbia will be happy to build a franchise around this film. Using women, I think, is probably a genius move, because what I actually was talking about earlier about how they can be kind of ignored and underappreciated in the fields of science. So that's actually something they can use. There is a huge amount of anger and hate towards this film, and that's kind of what I want to talk about. I understand every remake has this complaint of, oh, why don't they make new movies? Why don't they get original ideas? I get it. And matter of fact, I say that quite a bit about different films. Like, we didn't really need a Footloose remake. Matter of fact, I just heard that we're doing like Lethal Weapon remake. So, yeah, it's just how it is. But here's the thing. Also, I've heard people talk about, they don't like Bridesmaids or Paul Feig or Melissa McCarthy or something like that. Okay. I think they're good. Apparently, other people do too, because Bridesmaids and The Heat were very successful films. They're both very funny films, and they were big hits. So, hey, a lot of people also like them. So, it's one of those taste things. However, with those two, there's also this third thing that I keep feeling. And I feel like that is fueling this level of hate that is more intense than I've seen for a lot of remakes. And for any other film Paul Feig has done, or any film Melissa McCarthy has done. It's this feeling that this shouldn't be allowed. It's this anger. This, like, it's almost like feeling like you get the sense that some fans feel like something's being treaded into their turf, and they're highly threatened by it. Therefore, they're reacting with really intense hatred, refusing to even like give something a chance. And it's amazing. I have watched reactions online over and over again about this, and something will be released from the film, and I'll just see this venom come out, like, oh, this is gonna be the shittiest thing ever, I can't believe it, blah blah blah, and I'll look at the post about what they're talking about, and it's like, it's a picture of Kristen Wiig walking. What are you seeing that I'm not seeing? Like, oh, that's so terrible the way she's walking. That's horrible. Oh my God. Oh, Chris Hemsworth on a motorcycle. This is gonna be so shitty. Yeah. It's kind of like, it is really, really irritating. That there's just this belief that this shouldn't be done, or my favorite is kind of a condescending reaction where, oh, well, we can have just one or two female characters if you want to have something feminist. Oh yeah, because you know what? I'm sure those characters won't be left off any marketing. I'm sure they won't be left out any toys or t-shirts or anything like that. I actually remember the first Ghostbusters film because I was alive back then and went to see it, and I was very excited about the film. I didn't know Winston was a character until I actually sat and watched the movie. You know why? Because I didn't see him in any of the marketing. I didn't see him on any of the posters. I didn't see him in any of the real big shots of the film. He was kind of just absent. I'm sure that wouldn't have happened if we had one female Ghostbuster. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure the hashtag Where's Ray just came out of nowhere. So, that's kind of what I've been feeling right now. And there's like some videos that, just, you can just feel the intense anger. And, that's the thing. I'm pretty sure the Lethal Weapon remake won't register this intense hate. I actually watched a video today. It was a reaction video. It was really clever. Of just some guy's finger, like in front of the screen, as it played the video. That was his reaction. Very, very clever and thought-provoking. If I may take a second to react to that reaction. It's like, there you go, buddy. So that's kind of what I have right now. And I do want to tell you, I don't know if this movie's going to be good. That's the thing. These people are so convinced it's going to be the worst thing ever and just level culture and just destroy Ghostbusters. All I'm saying is, it looks like it's going to be fine. I am feeling positive about what I'm seeing. Now, here's the thing. It could be bad. I'm not saying it's going to be great. I'm not going to say it's going to be better than the original Ghostbusters. Okay, it's going to be better than Ghostbusters 2, but hey, it's not going to be possibly better than Ghostbusters, or even as good as the original Ghostbusters. I'm just saying, what I see, I'm feeling pretty positive about, and I'm willing to give this movie a shot. I'm not even thinking I shouldn't give it a shot. Everything I've seen has been, pretty interesting, and pretty funny now that I've actually gotten this chance to see a trailer. And I actually am irritated that I even have to have any kind of debate or argument about this. It's a goddamn movie about people shooting ghosts with lasers. And I have to argue about it with people like it's the abortion law or something like that. It's ridiculous. It's been 30 years, folks. Why don't you grow up? I think... Now, that's literally all I have to say about it. I'm just asking... Just think about this. That if the movie's bad and sucks and is horrible, that's fine. It'll be forgotten about. The movie will get no more sequels, and we'll move on, and we'll be happy. But this movie is successful. It will have saved the lives of millions of money-paying fans. Push the button, Lindsay.